Okay. I've tagged the group of poems I'm going to read with the first line from Another Country by Tom Hennon. And that line is, "There are no creatures you cannot love." Now, pertaining to my first poem, I'll read you a little something. You probably already all know this, but adult cicadas live only long enough to mate and start another brood. This is an X-rated poem. Metamorphosis. What if you could split open down the back of your crisp, wintered skin and emerge softer than before, with green lace wings? What if, having sucked the roots dry under the boulevard weeds, you could creep to the sunlight and crack open for 1 week of frenzied sex before you die? Lessons. Grandpa and I, in his garden, barefooted in the mud, fill the shallow trenches between rows of carrots, turnips, kale, with water from the hose. He calls it irrigating. He teaches me what water's worth in the summer-parched mountain valley. We squat in a cave of lilacs to set earwig traps. While he rests, I lie in his alfalfa field and watch bees roll in the blue blossoms. Then I return to his house as a bee to its hive, yellow with pollen. Eating salmon at the Beacon's house. By a river in a storm-darkened dining room, a silver salmon ready to be carved lies on a white china platter. Your host strips off its skin as he might a sequined stocking down a leg, and with an ivory-handled knife and fork lays it open in equal halves. The silent meat appears ridged where the finest bones have been. Deftly he extracts the spine, intact, from which dangles a rigid fan of tail. Such pale orange as in gladiola petal, this part you are given has one elusive bone which catches in your throat. You shove down 3 slices of bread in small pieces without being noticed. You're afraid you'll ruin the party while guests slap you on the back and stick diamond ring fingers down your throat, or an ambulance siren cuts through the quiet country night. But when you've managed to push down the bone and can swallow again, you realize that what swims inside you is not whole. I was the fish you caught with that sharp hook through my cheek. You hauled me out of water so deep, that silent blindness named home, and there was my punctured flesh and the sound of coursing water, and there were silver flashes as my head shot into the dryness of air, and you held me for a while in your warm hands to disengage the hook, then heaved me back into water so deep that my brief sight of twilight and dawn drowned. What else touched his black boot? After he drank the beer and whatever else was in the bottle, and whatever else he brought to fill him up, to pull him away from his moorings, after he built a modest fire on which to cook his catch, he waded to the middle of the river. A trout touched his dark boot as he cast the line out over and over and filled the creel on his back until, as though a dam had burst, sudden water filled his boots. He became full of river and heavy as cement. He became a toppled tree rushed on the current, past his cans, his bottle, past his coals turning to ash, past his own beating heart. Way down river they found him, in his shroud of black rubber, the basket of rainbows on his back. Excuse me. Other woods. A black she-bear crossing the road at night, caught in our headlights. Grandpa and I sitting close in the blue Plymouth, him stopping, her turning, rearing over the hood. She won't hurt us, her soft nipples where cubs have sucked, his brown eyes, hers, my hand in his. Watch her, watching her then, her huge claws, somewhere the den, her babes hidden in the darkness. I've met her since in other woods and him on other roads. Glimpsing a muskrat at Wood Lake. I wish I'd been born in the mud, comfortable with the weather, more hair or feathers even. Born relieved of smooth gliding drawers and file cabinets, of getting to the mailbox before midnight. I wish I could hear signals calling flight without a phone. I wish I could walk among my own kind without causing a rustle in the swamp. Well, there are no creatures you can't love. Sometimes it's the two-legged ones that are pretty hard to love. And so here's my last poem. It's called Stick, Stack, Stuck. Stick, stack, stuck. Stuck on the schooner. Stuck sailing the coast. Stuck with 16 passengers and 4 crew. Stuck for 6 days. Crammed in, stuck with an out-of-sorts host and his know-it-all guests. Stuck in the galley during a storm, everyone crammed in close, bobbing up, bobbing down, knives and pots, stacks of pans and 3-tined forks, bouncing from shelves, sliding across the table, across the floor, then the calm. Stuck for 4 more days. Who did Grandma call a stick in the mud? Someone who wouldn't budge or couldn't budge. Remember little Jimmy in the grassless backyard after a downpour, calling, "Marn, Marn, I'm stuck in the mud." Remember pulling him up from being stuck. The sucking sound and the empty little shoes that wouldn't budge. How did it feel to come unstuck? How did it feel to say goodbye to the captain, goodbye to the cook, goodbye to the handsome French sailor boy? To get off the boat and get stuck on a bus with everyone going south.